Hope Logan Spencer is currently standing at the absolute precipice of the most monumental and cataclysmic decision of her entire professional and personal life. For years, she has poured her heart, her soul, and her unparalleled creative genius into the Hope for the Future fashion line at Forrester Creations. She has weathered countless storms, navigated treacherous corporate politics, and endured the suffocating weight of family expectations. But the relentless, calculated corporate sabotage spearheaded by Steffy Forrester Finnegan has finally pushed Hope to her absolute breaking point. The devastating revelations emerging from the high-stakes world of the bold and the beautiful indicate that Hope is not just contemplating a departure. She is vibrating with an intoxicating, overwhelming excitement about officially moving her talents to the Logan Fashion House. This is a seismic shift, a tectonic realignment of power that will forever alter the competitive landscape of the Los Angeles fashion industry. However, for this masterful transition to be executed flawlessly, Hope is currently forced to keep this explosive, industry-shattering secret tightly under wraps. The element of pure surprise is her only viable shield against the inevitable, fiery wrath of the Forrester dynasty. Yet, in a sprawling metropolis like Los Angeles, and particularly within the incestuous, gossip-fueled corridors of the high-fashion world, secrets are the most valuable and volatile currency available. A secret of this astronomical magnitude, the golden child of the Logan family defecting from the legendary Forrester empire to build a rival dynasty, is akin to a ticking time bomb hidden beneath a glass floor. The pressure is mounting with every passing second, and the burning, inescapable question remains: who will be the one to shatter Hope's carefully constructed illusion? It is an absolute certainty that someone, intentionally or through a disastrous slip of the tongue, will leak Hope's closely guarded secret before she is psychologically or legally ready to announce it to the world. When that inevitable moment arrives, the atmospheric tension will violently snap, plunging both families into a state of absolute, unmitigated chaos. Let us first examine the highly volatile, fiercely ambitious Katie Logan Spencer as the primary suspect for this impending catastrophic leak. Katie is a formidable powerhouse, a woman fiercely determined to elevate the Logan brand to the legendary, mythical heights once exclusively occupied by Eric Forster's iconic, world-renowned collections. She has meticulously and ruthlessly orchestrated this corporate coup, successfully recruiting not only the brilliant Hope, but also the incredibly talented Deacon. But Katie harbors a fatal, deeply ingrained psychological flaw: her volatile, immensely complicated, and historically fraught relationship with her older sister, Brooke Logan Forrester. Brooke has always positioned herself as the matriarchal figure of the family, often exhibiting an overbearing, domineering, and dismissive attitude toward Katie's autonomy and business acumen. The underlying tension between these two powerhouse sisters is a powder keg waiting for a single, errant spark. Brooke possesses an uncanny, almost supernatural ability to know exactly how to approach Katie to inflict the maximum amount of psychological distress. Brooke knows every insecurity, every hidden resentment, and every trigger point buried deep within Katie's psyche. Currently, Brooke is riding an immense, euphoric high, having miraculously managed to pull strings and get Hope's Hope for the Future line temporarily reinstated at Forrester Creations. Brooke expects gratitude, subservience, and total alignment from her family. If Brooke were to confront Katie, radiating that signature condescension and demanding loyalty to the Forrester way, it could easily push Katie past her ultimate breaking point. In the midst of a heated, screaming, tear-filled argument echoing through the sleek, modern halls of the Logan Executive Suites, Katie's fragile restraint might completely disintegrate. Driven by a desperate, blinding need to prove her absolute superiority and to inflict a mortal wound upon Brooke's massive, fragile ego, Katie could easily blurt out the devastating, unvarnished truth. Imagine the sheer, unadulterated shock on Brooke's face when Katie viciously reveals that Brooke's own biological daughter would rather abandon her mother's legacy than continue to work under Brooke's suffocating, chaotic shadow. In a moment of blinding rage, Katie could explicitly tell Brooke that Hope's supposed, highly publicized leave of absence from Forrester Creations is not a temporary mental health break, but rather a permanent, legally binding defection to the Logan Empire. This singular, impulsive revelation would not only shatter Brooke's heart, but would instantly ignite a corporate civil war, effectively destroying any remaining semblance of sisterly affection and prematurely exposing Hope to the vicious retaliation of Ridge and Steffy Forrester. However, Katie is not the only individual carrying the immense weight of this dangerous knowledge. We must also turn our analytical gaze toward the romantic and emotional vulnerabilities of Will Spencer. Will is deeply entrenched in the daily operations of the Logan family business, working closely alongside his mother, Katie. Given his high-level clearance and intimate involvement in the company's strategic expansion, Will is undoubtedly privy to the highly classified details of Hope's impending arrival and the massive contracts being drafted in the shadows. Will's heart, however, is currently consumed by his intense, newly rekindled romance with Electra Forrester. Following his impassioned, heart-wrenching public plea at the Bikini Bar summer soiree, Will and Electra have beautifully and passionately reunited. They are currently sharing their lives, their living spaces, and their most intimate, unguarded thoughts. In the quiet, vulnerable moments of living together, the heavy, suffocating burden of corporate espionage might simply become too much for Will to bear in silence. Wrapped in the warmth of Electra's embrace, lulled into a false sense of absolute security by the depth of their romantic connection, Will could innocently and accidentally let the massive secret slip from his lips. He might genuinely believe that his profound love for Electra guarantees her unwavering loyalty and absolute discretion. But this immense trust might be dangerously, tragically misplaced. Electra, despite her genuine affection for Will, is inextricably and biologically tied to the Forrester family legacy. Furthermore, she is currently navigating a highly fragile, newly repaired friendship with Melissa Dillon, a woman who harbors her own dark, secretive connections to Remy Price and suppressed, agonizing romantic feelings for Will himself. If Electra learns of Hope's monumental betrayal, the sheer magnitude of the scandal, combined with the immense pressure from her vindictive cousin R.J. Forrester, might compel her to share the information. Electra might confide in Melissa, or worse, directly alert Steffy, setting off a catastrophic chain reaction that will never, in his wildest nightmares, intended to trigger. We must also deeply consider the tragic, agonizing irony that Hope Logan Spencer herself might be the ultimate architect of her own premature undoing. Hope has exercised superhuman, almost agonizing restraint in keeping her defection a closely guarded secret, but she is a woman currently walking barefoot on a razor's edge. Every single day that she steps into the opulent, glass-paneled Forrester Creations building, she is forced to endure Steffy's smug superiority, blatant disrespect, and calculated psychological warfare. Steffy has continuously and maliciously weaponized her co-CEO position, indefinitely delaying the Hope for the Future relaunch, slashing budgets, and treating Hope's life's work, her absolute passion, as a trivial, irritating nuisance. The psychological toll of this relentless, daily bullying is astronomical, slowly chipping away at Hope's carefully maintained facade of professional stoicism. Picture Hope standing in the grand executive office, forced to listen to yet another of Steffy's condescending, venomous lectures about corporate priorities and Forrester superiority. The sheer blinding injustice of it all could easily trigger a massive flash of righteous, uncontrollable fury. In a moment of pure, unadulterated passion, Hope might completely lose her iron grip on her composure. Unable to stomach another single second of Steffy's arrogance, Hope could snap, screaming the unvarnished truth directly into her rival's smug face. The intense, euphoric catharsis of yelling, "I quit," and "I am taking my talents to Logan," would be an incredibly empowering moment of liberation. However, that fleeting second of triumph would be instantaneously followed by the crushing, sickening realization that she has prematurely detonated her own meticulously planned exit strategy. Arming Steffy with the exact ammunition needed to launch a preemptive legal and public relations strike against her and the entire Logan brand. Hope would be left drowning in a sea of profound regret, realizing she had single-handedly ruined her own flawless transition out of pure emotional exhaustion. Furthermore, Liam Spencer, the fiercely protective and increasingly volatile husband, stands out as another prime, highly likely candidate to accidentally or intentionally leak the explosive truth. Liam has been forced to stand by and watch his beloved wife suffer under the tyrannical, oppressive rule of the Forrester executives for far too long. He has seen the exhausted tears, the bitter frustration, and the profound sadness etched into Hope's face night after night. Furthermore, Liam is currently harboring his own deep-seated, boiling resentments against the Forrester establishment. The recent corporate bloodbaths, the shifting loyalties, and the incredibly unjust firings of those he cares deeply about, including the painful, humiliating professional blows dealt to his own older brother after all of his relentless, agonizing hard work and dedication, have left Liam simmering with an uncontrollable, righteous rage. Liam is simply not the type of man to sit idly by in silence while his family is blatantly disrespected and professionally decimated. If Liam were to cross paths with Steffy Forrester in a public setting or a tense boardroom, the animosity between them would be thick enough to cut with a knife. Steffy, never one to back down from confrontation, might actively push Liam's buttons, arrogantly mocking Hope's current pathetic predicament at the company or questioning Liam's ability to protect his own wife. Blinded by his fierce protective instincts and a burning, overwhelming desire to wipe the smug, victorious smirk off Steffy's face, Liam could easily weaponize Hope's massive secret. Driven by pure adrenaline and anger, Liam might aggressively and loudly inform Steffy that she no longer holds an ounce of power over his wife's destiny. He could inadvertently, yet proudly, declare that Hope has already signed a massive, life-changing, multi-million-dollar contract with Katie's fashion house, leaving Forrester Creations in the dust. Liam's desperate need to defend Hope's honor could ultimately be the very thing that destroys her strategic advantage, plunging them both into a vicious legal battle with Ridge and Steffy. Finally, we must dive into the murky, unpredictable, and highly dangerous waters surrounding Deke Sharp and his sinister, obsessive former lover, Remy Price. Deke is currently riding a massive wave of professional and emotional euphoria. After enduring the profound humiliation and financial terror of being wrongfully and maliciously terminated from his position at Forrester Creations, he has been thrown a magnificent, life-saving lifeline by Katie Logan. Joining the prestigious, rapidly expanding Logan team alongside a powerhouse like Hope is the ultimate, sweetest vindication for Deke. He is eager to start fresh, to prove his immense worth, and to leave the toxic Forrester drama permanently in his rearview mirror. However, Deke's dark, complicated past is actively and relentlessly hunting him down. Remy Price, a man driven by a dark, consuming obsession and a desperate, unyielding need for romantic reconciliation, is silently stalking the corridors of Los Angeles, determined to win Deke back by any means necessary. The atmosphere inside the executive office of Forrester Creations was thick with unspoken resentments and decades of buried grievances before it finally shattered in a single, echoing moment of violence. The latest revelations from the dramatic landscape of the bold and the beautiful indicate that Brooke Logan Forrester, driven by a blinding cocktail of rage and self-righteousness, raised her right hand and delivered a vicious, stinging slap to the left cheek of her youngest sister. Katie Logan Spencer. The sheer force of the physical blow was enough to send a shockwave through the room, leaving a burning red mark as tears immediately began to stream down Katie's stunned face. This specific, violent event transcended the usual bickering and sibling rivalry that fans have grown accustomed to over the years. It created a metaphorical earthquake, sending seismic tremors that will undoubtedly ripple throughout the entire Los Angeles, California region, fundamentally altering the power dynamics of the city's most prominent families and destroying whatever fragile trust remained between the Logan sisters. To understand the sheer magnitude of this physical assault, one must delve deep into the psychological labyrinth of Brooke Logan Forster's mind. Brooke has convinced herself, through years of being the center of attention and the primary focus of the Forster men, that Katie is the sole architect of every single problem the Logan family has faced in recent months. In Brooke's deeply skewed perception of reality, she stands as the unquestioned matriarch and the supreme head of the Logan family. On the point of her historical hierarchy, she may technically be correct, but her execution of that authority has become undeniably tyrannical. Brooke operates under the delusion that her choices, her alliances, and her vision for the future are absolute, and anyone who dares to step out of line, especially her youngest sister, must be swiftly and brutally brought to heel. Brooke's inability to see Katie as an equal has blinded her to the very real threat her sister now poses. However, Brooke has severely miscalculated the woman standing across from her. Katie Logan Spencer has spent a lifetime acutely aware of the condescending gaze her older sister often directs her way. She has endured the pity, the overshadowing, and the quiet dismissal of her own merits for decades, always playing the supportive role while Brooke commanded the spotlight. Yet, Katie never truly anticipated that her eldest sister would harbor such deep-seated, venomous jealousy over her pursuit of a career outside the hallowed, insular halls of Forster Creations. Katie's ambition to build something of her own has triggered a profound insecurity in Brooke, igniting a nostalgic and bitter storyline that pits the various factions of three incredibly powerful families against one another in a ruthless battle for supremacy. The slap was not just an act of anger. It was an act of sheer desperation from a woman losing control. The battlefield for this familial war is framed by the towering legacy of Forster Creations, an empire that has seemingly remained at the pinnacle of the fashion industry forever. Reaching such an unparalleled summit required decades of blood, sweat, and visionary genius. It was the legendary Eric Forster and his formidable late wife, the incomparable Stephanie Forster Finnegan, who painstakingly built that empire from the ground up through their combined willpower and relentless determination. The harsh truth that Katie has come to realize, and that Brooke refuses to acknowledge, is that neither Brooke nor Ridge Forster actually built the foundation of that company. They merely inherited the immense benefits, the prestige, and the financial windfall of what the two original co-founders created, parading around as monarchs of a kingdom they did not forge with their own hands. For a very long time, Katie genuinely loved her tenure at Forster Creations. She was the unsung hero of the executive team, working tirelessly behind the scenes to orchestrate international public relations campaigns and elevate the brand's global footprint. She performed her duties with exceptional skill and grace, and although she was never thrust into the spotlight as one of the company's marquee stars, she accepted that reality without complaint. Katie was content, perhaps even deeply fulfilled, to quietly promote the company's standout faces, which ironically included Brooke herself. She was the loyal soldier, ensuring the Forster machine ran smoothly, until the painful months recently when Ridge Forster callously brushed her aside, rendering her decades of loyalty entirely meaningless and sparking a fire of resentment that could no longer be extinguished. That profound betrayal birthed a new, terrifyingly ambitious entity, the Logan fashion brand. But make no mistake, the objective of the Logan brand is no longer simply to carve out a modest, respectable niche in the crowded Los Angeles fashion scene. The goal, fueled by betrayal and a thirst for ultimate vindication, is total, unmitigated domination. Katie is not looking to coexist peacefully alongside Forrester creations. She is looking to eclipse them, to cast a shadow so large that the legacy of Forrester is forced to wither in the dark. This monumental shift in Katie's mindset transforms her from a collateral victim of Forrester politics into an apex predator ready to claim her throne. She is no longer satisfied with the scraps left behind by Ridge and Steffy. She wants the entire industry to bow to the Logan name. This dark, empowering evolution is most perfectly encapsulated in a deeply significant conversation between Katie and her husband, the notoriously ruthless Bill Spencer. In a moment of profound clarity and acceptance, Katie explicitly told Bill that she no longer wants him to bury his infamous sword necklace. Instead, she demanded that he wear it proudly once again. Katie has come to the profound realization that the sword is not just a piece of jewelry. It is a fundamental representation of Bill's cutthroat, unapologetic personality. By accepting the sword in the modern era, Katie is not just accepting Bill's darkness. She is signaling the awakening of her own. She is embracing the ruthless tactics required to win this war.